All right, everybody. Welcome back to another session of Gentle Chair Yoga. This is Batya Blumenthal, Branch Supervisor of the Putterham Library of the Public Library of Brookline. Um, Welcome, everybody. We wanted to just take this quick time to uh, once again welcome everybody, to thank our friends of the Brookline Public Library who have sponsored this program and programs like it. We also wanted to recognize our friends, our community partners, Brookline Interactive Group, who will be live streaming this program to Xfinity and RCN local channel 3, as well as their Facebook and YouTube channels. This program is also being streamed to the Public Library of Brookline's Facebook channel. Before we start, I'm going to just read a quick disclaimer. Participation in this online yoga program could result in injury. Not all exercises presented here are suitable for everyone. These exercises are not intended to substitute for proper medical care or advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any exercise program. The creators, teachers, and producers assume no responsibility for injuries from participation in this program. And with that, here's Keith.
Hi, good morning. Let's sit up nice and tall and seated mountain pose. So you can decide whether or not you want to use the back of your chair. It's a little bit more supported with the back of the chair, but it can be interesting to try it without it. So in mountain pose, we want to be able to feel like if you find your front hip bones here, so if you come up the thighs, right with the thighs meet the torso, these front hip bones, we want them to be able to rock forward slightly. I'll turn sideways so you can see. So we want to have a curve going in the lower back a little bit. You don't want, if it's too much, it's not good. And if it's flat like this, like if the back is flat, or if it's rounded like this, that's not good either. So that's not really our natural, our natural shape of our spine is the three curves. In here, out, up around the shoulder blades, so it goes out that way, and then in here at the neck. And notice that the feet are about hip width apart, and the ankles are directly under the knees. And I'm feeling my sitting bones right at the base of the pelvis. And if you can't feel them, if you have trouble feeling them, lean a little to one side or the other, and you may be able to feel them at the base of the pelvis. But you want to be comfortable, so if the chair is super hard, you might want a little bit of cushioning, something that's not squishy though, something not squishy. And if your chair is too squishy, it also makes it you don't feel as stable. And we're going to just breathe here for a moment. And I'd like to read something. I really like this. So this is by Thich Nhat Hanh, who is a Buddhist monk from Vietnam. He's very old now, and I don't think he's in good health. But I really like this. He comes up with really good stuff that I can really understand. It's called no blaming. When we grow a lemon tree, we want it to be vigorous and beautiful. But if it doesn't thrive, we don't blame the tree. We observe it in order to understand why it isn't growing well. Perhaps we have not taken care of it well enough. We know it would be we know it would be odd to blame a lemon tree, and yet we blame human beings when they are not growing well. But human beings are not very different than lemon trees. If we take good care of them, they will grow well. Blaming never helps. Blaming never helps. So let's sit up nice and tall. And we're going to take some breaths here. So as you inhale, as you breathe in, actually, let me just adjust the audio. I'm sorry. I think I did not have the audio that I want on. So hopefully that is better and you can hear me better. So we'll sit up nice and tall, and feel free to close the eyes here. Feel free to just let the eyes gently shut.
And then remember how the hip bones lean forward a little bit. Go ahead and let the belly, as you breathe in, lean forward slightly. So the belly fills like a balloon. And then as we exhale, there's a gentle contraction right around the navel. So there's a firming of the abdomen. And then we relax the abdomen as we breathe in. So we want to have that nice rhythm with the breath. And the abdomen helps to keep the rhythm going. So as we breathe in, there's a filling, and as we exhale, there's this gentle contraction. And the contraction also helps to move some of the air out of the lungs as the belly moves in and the lungs are gently pressed. And let's begin with the sound of Om. So this is yoga for the voice, yoga for the voice. So remember, the Om sound is the ah, big mouth, but big wide open mouth. O shaped is the second part. Oh, and the last one, we close the mouth and feel the vibration in the throat. You can even give a little smile, like you ate something good. So we'll do those three sounds, all one right after the other. So they just flow. One just flows into the other, and we can adjust the sound by using the shape of the mouth. So think about the shape of the mouth and then gently move from one shape to the next. We'll take a nice breath in, just a normal breath. Do two more. Feeling the vibration in the heart and up in the jaw. And just take a couple of breaths. So each time we breathe in, we're elongating the spine. So we can very gently press the soles of the feet down, very gently, just to engage the quadriceps here. And then as we engage down below, we extend up from those sitting bones. So right at the base of the chair, right at the base of the spine, touching the chair. That is our support. Really, our feet and our sitting bones are our support. And let's add the arms to it. So we're going to inhale up, and then exhale, the arms sweep down. So the palms come together. Make sure they're nice and even. If you need to, you can always turn them and look. And then turn the palms out and let them float down. You could even imagine, it's almost like you're swimming upwards. Like when you do breaststroke, the hands, they come a little closer usually, but in this, they can imagine the hands are going down. Almost like the flippers on a seal. If you ever see, I think, a seal, the flippers go like this to make the seal go. So think about the hands floating down as if they were moving down through water. And then we come up. And as we come up, letting the spine elongate and rise up with the rising hands. The breath is coming in as we come up, adjusting the shoulders, adjusting the size of the circle to fit your shoulders. So we want to keep the shoulders relaxed. You could even let the head lift up, the chin lift up slightly, and then go back down. You want to add a little bit more movement. And you might even notice as the chin lifts up and the heart opens as we're coming up, and then as we're coming down, there's a slight rounding of the upper back. And let's come back to the middle like this before we continue. And so a few cactus breaths. So this is the position when we're going up. The heart is open here, the chest is broadening. And then as we bring the arms down and the back round slightly, there's that as if we were hugging ourselves. So we get the shoulder blades moving apart. So here the shoulder blades are moving in towards each other, keeping the shoulders relaxed. And then give yourself a little hug like this. You could even start like this. So we don't want the hug to be a crushing hug. We want it to feel comfortable. Nice and comfortable. So try this a couple of times, thinking about the opening and then the closing, but the opening in the shoulder blades behind you. And all this time, we're still sitting up tall. Imagine, if you will, as you inhale, as the hands come out, that you're like going to fly up, almost like a bird opening its wings and then coming back. And keep the spine long. So even when you hug yourself like this, we don't want to lose that length in the spine. And let's come back, bring the hands back together. A couple more this way, like we were doing before. And keep that idea of opening the heart, opening the chest as the hands are coming up. And then as they're coming down, there's a little rounding, slight rounding of the upper back. And let's go the other way. So the hands meet in the middle, and then we relax the hands down, turn the palms up, and they come up and around. And this is another one where if you want to let the chin lift up and down, you can. Not letting the head go back too much. We don't want to compress the back of the neck. But it can be nice to just let the head bow, as long as you can keep that feeling of openness in the throat. So we don't want the throat to feel squashed. So we're inhaling, palms are up, arms are up, and then exhaling. And we want to tune in so that the energy that we're using or the effort that we're using is maybe half effort. As if we could just do this for a while. We won't. We're just going to do one more. We're going to inhale, and then the palms come together and then down. And then just rest the hands. And we're going to inhale up and exhale down. So do this a few times. Inhale up, exhale down. So there's a couple ways that you can do this. One is to work with letting the body move more freely, maybe a little bit leaning to one side. So notice that more of my body is moving here. The other way to do it is to firm up this area and try to keep the hips and the belly area relatively still. The shoulders are going to move. So keeping this area still means that we have to concentrate more and also stabilize this area. So even though we're moving, and there's a tendency when we move for this area to move, for the core area to move. So it's going to be a little more strenuous, but we don't want to strain. So don't hold it there so that you're straining, but if you can hold it there with some firmness, see how it feels. And then we're going to bring the hands down, and we're going to do the same thing. This time we're going to lift one knee up. So normally, we normally do it kind of like this. We'd lift and we'd lean over a little bit. So let's start with that. So everybody's used to this. And this is a really good practice too. And you can still lift up more. So if this is too easy, try lifting more. Lifting more is definitely more challenging. And then come back down and then keep the same idea of lifting the knee, but keeping this part of the body stable. So start to lift up, and notice it's more challenging. It is for me anyway. I'm assuming I'm no different than anybody else. And it's hard for me to lift up very high. So I just lift up a little bit, and I lift up more slowly. I need to give my body a chance to react to actually keep stability here. If I go too fast, it's really hard for my body not to be unstable. So I'm starting to lift like this, and see if you get a little bit more work going on, especially in the abdomen and maybe even in the sides of the body. And this may be one where you want to scoot all the way back and use the back of the chair. You don't have to, but it may be more challenging. So in the beginning, you could lift up using the back of the chair, and that'll help stabilize. And I'm going to walk, it's like I'm walking, but I'm not using the arms. You could even let the arms just hang down. So the shoulders aren't moving. The shoulders are steady. And the higher you lift the knee, the more challenging it is. But remember, we want to do this without straining. So if you're lifting your knee higher, but you're struggling a lot, try to not lift it so high. And just keep going for a couple more times. And if you don't like this part, if you don't like it that way, go back to the other way. They're both okay. They're both okay. This is more dynamic, doing it with the movement, and this is a little bit more, it's more static, and it does require, it seems like, more concentration, because we don't do this. No one lifts their leg up and keeps the rest of the body straight. We don't work that way. But it's a good way to practice, because it really focuses the mind on exactly what we're doing. And let's start to warm up the joints a little bit, starting with the hands. So opening, closing. And if you'd like, you're welcome to stand for this too. So your choice, you could, if you're tired of sitting, we've been sitting for about 15 minutes. So if you'd like to stand, you could certainly stand up and do this. Just make sure your balance is good. Any issues with balance, please have a chair that you can rely on. And then the wrists. And then the other way. And then the other way. And see if you can slow it down. So being very mindful. So going slower requires more concentration, usually. And then back the other way. And then letting the arms hang down and touching the shoulders. And then begin to lift the elbows up, but continue to touch the shoulders. So I'm doing two things. My elbows are bending, and at the same time they're lifting. And they're going to get to the point where they're not going to lift any higher, or they're not going to comfortably lift higher. So once you get there, start going back in the other direction. This reminds me of pumping, using a jack to, if you want to change the tire on a car and you got to pump the jack like this. Same idea. It's nice and rhythmical too. Actually, if you think about it, so many things that we do, especially if we have to do a bunch of them in a row to do something like stirring something or whisking something, there's a nice rhythm to it. If you get used to it, you get good rhythm. And let's rock the feet. So really zero in on the feeling the soles of the feet here. Want to feel the soles of the feet. Notice the knees are about lined up with the hips. Mine are a little bit wider. That's okay. The most important thing here is to be comfortable and not be, we don't want to be super wide, and we don't want to be too close together. We want to be somewhere in between. And let's add the hands to it like this. So swinging back and forth. And then this time swing forward and come up and around. And see how that works with the feet. It's a little bit different. See if you can keep the feet going, even if they're not exactly in sync, because actually now we're not in sync because there's no ending. We're doing circles up here, So there's not really any ending for the hands, but there is an ending for the feet rocking. And let's go the other way. So circle the hands the other way. And let's rest the hands and roll the shoulders a few times. So up and back. Actually, let's do one shoulder and then the other. Oh. So this should feel nice. If it's not feeling so great, then try making the circles smaller or just skipping the exercise altogether. And that goes for anything that we do. Any exercise that we do, if it doesn't feel right to you, please don't do it. Especially if there's any pain or real discomfort, then it's probably not for you. Let's add a little bit of, I'll do our backstroke here. So think about the hands, almost like wiping your brow here, letting the back of the hand come across the forehead. If your shoulders, if you know that your shoulders, you have good flexibility, good stability in the shoulders, and you want to make them a little bigger, you can. Or if you do backstroke regularly, I don't know if anybody gets to swim anymore, but you could even do it like a real backstroke. And then we're going to do crawl strokes. We'll do forward, reaching across, and then down the other leg. And across, down the other leg. So we're letting the body turn here. Letting the body turn. Actually, come back up and let's move the elbows back and forth like this. So as I move my elbows, I want to feel the movement here, down here in the core. So we get this turning. So the navel is moving a little to the side as the shoulder. So there's this diagonal movement across from the hip to the opposite shoulder. So I want to feel it happening down here in the belly. And I want to still sit up tall. And now let's try the crawl stroke again. And keep that idea of the belly turning slightly as you reach. And then I can even turn my head slightly as if I was really swimming and breathing. So my face is in the water. I have to turn it to get a breath of air. And let's come back up. Let's go back and we're going to do the knees next. So for the knees, I'm going to just tap the knee, lift one knee up, and then swing. Swing. And then same side, swing that hand. So I'm not so much lifting the foot. So this is more like an extension, leg extension. I'm doing a little bit of that, but I'm really just letting it swing. And then keep the hand going, put the foot down, and then do the other foot. So same thing. Let's think about a swinging foot, swinging foot. And keeping the foot so it's going as straight as you can. Remember, the knee is a hinge joint that's not made to go to the side. So the hip, the knee, and the toes kind of line up with each other. And then switch to the other hand. So now we're doing the same side, hand and foot. And then rest. And then sit up nice and tall. Take a nice breath in, and then we're going to lift up and then down. So now we're engaging these quadriceps a little bit more. Less dynamic, a little bit more static, kind of like when we worked with our core earlier, because we're going slower. So we're going slower, so we're really getting more emphasis in the quadriceps. Remembering to flex the foot a little bit. Actually, let's lift up, flex the foot. So flexion is like this, and then a little extension. I guess actually called plantar flexion dorsiflexion. This is plantar flexion like this. It's confusing with flexion and extension with some of the joints. It's not obvious. And then switch feet. So just pointing and flexing. That's probably better. Point and flex. Point and flex. Less confusion. Point and flex. This is good, especially for the front of the ankle. So we need this part. We need movement. We need good movement right here in the front of the ankle in order to ambulate well, and especially to climb stairs. And then let's go back. We're lifting, flex, and down. So let's switch feet each time. Switch feet each time. Think about pressing through the heel. So the heel's moving in your direction. My heel is moving in your direction, so your heel would be moving in my direction. And let's add the opposite arm. So we're going to lift up and then come back down. And lift up and come back down. And lift up. And let's start to slow it down a little bit. So remember before, we were working with raising the arm and keeping the core stable without moving too much. And let's try it again, this time with the leg too. So as I lift up, I try to keep my upper body still. And then see how that feels. And don't worry if your hand doesn't go up, if your arm doesn't extend so much, don't worry about that. We want to keep the shoulder relaxed here. Shoulders relaxed. Shoulders relaxed. Keep going. And one more time on each side. Remember, you can imagine there's a connection between the foot and the hand to help them they help each other lift up. And then come back down. Roll the shoulder. Let's do the neck next. So in order to do the neck, we want to have good posture. So make sure you're sitting up with your best posture so that your neck can extend as well as possible. And then lifting up and then softening, letting the chin come down. So we inhale up. And as you come up, see if you can feel some openness, some lengthening on the front of the throat without dropping the head way back. So I'm going to turn sideways. So we lift up, but notice that I'm not doing this. I'm not collapsing the back of my neck. I'm still keeping some length there. And then when I come down, feeling as if this is open here. So I want to keep some softness in the throat. So just lifting up. You could even imagine as you lift the chin up that the spine is rising up with it to give us that extra kind of extension through the body. And then down. And keep the length even as you drop the chin. Keep the length even as you drop the chin. And then we're going to go from side. We're going to tip the head. So we're sitting up nice and tall, and then we're letting the ear tip to one shoulder and then the other. And remember, you can do a pillow too. The important thing is to really let go of the head and just let the weight of the head do the work. And to keep the spine extended. So we're still keeping length here as we release the ear to the shoulder. And then one more time. And then come up. Let's roll the shoulders a few times. Back the other way. And then we're going to turn the head. I'm going to add the hand to it. So go ahead and swish the hand. So let's see, today, let's do it like this. With the fingers like this, like we're swishing the hand back and forth, not just the finger. And then begin to let the hand go in a circle. So you could start small even. That can be a little more interesting, to start small and then to make the circles a little bigger. We want to do this so we don't get dizzy. So if you find that you're dizzy at all, try making them smaller and slower circles. See if that helps. So you have to experiment. And then let's go the other way. And find what's comfortable for the shoulder too. For some people, big circles is okay, and big circles for the neck is okay, but for some people, smaller is better. And let's bring that hand down. Let's swish the other hand just to get into our circles, and then we're going to start to circle that hand. So I'm letting the head move more than the eyes here. And let's go back the other way. And let's bring the hand down and sit up nice and tall and slide forward in the chair. So I'm away from the back of the chair. So I have room behind me, because as I circle around, I want to be able to lean back a little. So I'm leaning to the side and to the front and to the opposite side and then back. And I'm feeling it all in the belly here. And a little, I don't want any pain in the back, but you might notice some effort in the back. But no pain or discomfort. So ideally, and let's sit up, let's come back to the center for a second and sit up. Ideally, there's this lengthening of the spine as you're making the circles. Let's go the other way. So I'm keeping my spine long, even as I'm circling around. If you want to put your hands on your knees like this and then bend the elbows in unison, you could do that. Kind of making our body, connecting the hands and arms to the knees, and it changes us the way we feel structurally, because we have a little support from the arms, almost like we're attached. So the elbows are bending and the arms are gently pressing to help the body lift up. And then as we start to lean towards the front, as the elbows bend, the arms act as a brake. And it's a little less effort to lean forward. So we're using the arms and the shoulders and the core. They're working together. They're working in unison to spread out the effort. And let's do a few cactus breaths. Inhale and exhale. You can hug yourself if you want. And remembering to change which arm is on top when you hug. And you can also adjust where the hands are relative to the shoulders. Elbows no higher than the shoulders, though. No higher than this. And then give yourself a hug. And then relax the shoulders for a moment and gently turn the head from side to side. Without overdoing, though. It's just really just a gentle back and forth motion. And see how that feels. If there's any pain or discomfort, try making the movement smaller. Remembering to still breathe and then relax, let the arms down. So one of the dangers whenever we do, or maybe it's not dangerous, but one of the things that sometimes happens is when we hug ourselves like this, it's a little bit harder to breathe, and sometimes we forget to breathe. So that's when we have to really connect with the breath and maybe give it a little extra manual thought rather than automatic. So because the breath, we forget about the breath most of the day. It's automatic. Our bodies just do that. And let's rock from side to side. Going to lift up, back and forth. So we're going to do triangle pose next. I think we did all the joints, pretty sure. Everything from the toes, ankles, knees, hips. We did the elbows, the shoulders, and the neck. I think we got most of them anyway. So we're going to do triangle pose. You're welcome to do this standing or seated. I'm going to start to do it seated. So I'm going to step the feet apart, a little bit wider apart. And if it's helpful to slightly turn the feet out, that's okay. And then I'm going to inhale and lift the arms out to the side like this. And just hold them there for a moment and then rest them like this. So you have a choice in triangle pose. You can start with the arms like this, with the fingers extending out to the sides. It's as if you're reaching out through your middle fingertip. So the middle fingertips are reaching away from each other. It is harder for the shoulders. So the other choice is to rest the hands here and do the movement the way we'd normally do it like this. Or you can start with the hands like this and then bring the hand down like this. So either way, let's begin. Let's inhale, sit up nice and tall. Take a nice breath in, and then we're going to bring one hand down and let it slide down the leg. The other one comes up alongside the ear. And then we inhale and come back up. And then we bring the arms parallel again, or we bring them down, bring the hands down to the knees. And then inhale, extend up. One hand comes down, the other arm comes up and over. So we're going to go back. So that's what we're doing. We come down, inhale. And then we inhale up. Exhale to the other side. So you could pause in the middle and take a breath if you want. We're going to go back and forth like that. And if you'd like to do it standing, you're welcome to stand up and do it if you're familiar with it. We've done that before. But this is actually pretty good, especially if you're working with the breath. So we're using the breath to elongate the spine, and then we're exhaling and coming out to the side. You could also bring the hand to the shoulder like this. If your shoulder bothers you with the straight arm, bring your hand to the shoulder. And then inhale and exhale. And actually, let's try it that way. This is a nice way to do it too, is bring the hands up by the shoulders like this. And we're going to inhale, and you can, if you want, if you prefer to do it with the arms straight, that's okay. Inhale, and then we're going to exhale and let the arm come down. And then inhale up, exhale down. So as you're moving from side to side, think about the hands almost like a counterweight, or the weight shifting like a seesaw, So we're going down, seesaw down this way, and inhale, come back up, and then seesaw the other way. So that the movement in the shoulders with the hands and the arms becomes a part of the rhythm, becomes a part of the rhythm of the movement from one side to the other. And notice too, as you lean to one side, sometimes there's a tendency to have an awful lot of weight on the side you're leaning into. See if you can keep the other side a little bit grounded, so that as I lean to one side, I'm still keeping the foot feeling like it's pressing down a little on the opposite side. So we still want some balance in our support. We don't want to be, because this is not the same as having the feet weighted on both sides. And bring the arms down, roll the shoulders. And then back the other way. So we're gonna stand up, or you can continue to do seated mountain pose. We're gonna come to mountain pose, standing, and I have my chair, so I could stand right behind my chair and use my chair as a little bit of information, a little bit of information. Or I could let my hands hang down. So either way, just make sure your balance is okay. Or I should say, provide whatever support you need so that you don't have to worry so much about your balance. And we're going to stand up nice and tall and breathe in. And just take a couple of breaths like this, remembering to extend up through the center of the spine, right through the center of the body, the center of the torso. And then we're going to bend the knees slightly. I'll turn sideways so you can see. Bend the knees slightly, and then I straighten the legs. And then straighten. So we're going to work, so this is a pose called chair pose. And it's, so when we do mountain pose, it really incorporates a little bit of the chair pose, because in chair pose, we are bending the knees more as if we were going to sit down in a chair. So notice the buttocks is moving back slightly. Just make sure that you don't lean back. We want to keep our balance. So you may need to hold on to the chair if you want. You could also work with the hands like this on the chair. Is a nice way as I sit down. And I don't go down. I only go down so far as is comfortable. And I do it evenly with the knees going straight ahead, same direction as the toes. So you might at first need to look down. I mean, it's easy. This time of year is easy. I can see my knees because I kind of have shorts on, or I have shorter pants anyway. And this is what I want. I want the knees going in the same direction as the toes. And this one wants to go out, so I have to guide it in. So we have to use our minds to take control of exactly what we're doing. In the beginning, it's better to not go down as far and actually have good alignment. So the alignment is the number one thing. Number one is alignment. And then as you start to progress over a period of time, not just in this class, not during this class, you could try putting the hands out and then beginning to sit back a little bit as if you're going to sit in a chair. And if you're concerned about balance sitting back, you could put a chair back behind you. Just make sure that you're positioned well, so as if you were going to sit in a chair. The weight begins to move back towards the heels too. So as I sit back, my weight is moving more into the heels than the balls of the feet. And I'm engaging, it's very important here to engage the butt muscles, the gluteal muscles. If we don't have these muscles engaged, then we end up with the quadriceps doing all the work. And since they are connected with the knee joint, it can create knee pain and knee strain. So we need these guys back here to be working to avoid knee strain. So if you need to, and actually let's try this. I'm going to turn, pardon my backside. I'm going to squeeze my butt together. And if you're at all uncertain about how to do it, put your hands right on your butt and then squeeze your butt together. So if you haven't done this exercise before, it can take practice. You actually have to train the muscles, and they won't get trained in a day. It will probably take several weeks, or I should say over a period of time. You'll get better control over the muscles if you practice regularly, daily or maybe every other day. And you don't have to contract a lot. It's just a little contraction. You also might notice that as you contract the muscles, the legs automatically, the thighs want to move back and the kneecaps lift. So I get the contraction in the quadriceps accompanying the contraction in the gluteal muscles. And that, of course, is how we do chair pose. Do we get these muscles working and these muscles working? So let's try that one last time. So if you want, you can hold your arms out like this and begin to sit as if you're going to be in a chair. Remembering balance always. This is a good exercise to do at the kitchen counter. So I think you can see, I mean, this isn't a counter, this is a desk, but if it were the counter's probably a little higher. I can put my hands there and begin to sit down and come back up, and sit down and come back up. And try it this way. Give a squeeze to the buttocks and now begin to sit down, but keep that gentle squeeze on. You'll also notice that the abdomen is working when you do that. So there's a gentle squeeze here. The abdomen contracts a little bit, and then we begin to sit back on towards the heels. So that's a really good exercise to do. A kitchen counter is a great place to do it. Or your chair. And if you practice that regularly, you'll find it's easier to get up and down from your chair. And let's stand up nice and tall, or if you're seated, sit up nice and tall. And then we're going to start to lift up one foot and then place it down. So same thing as we were doing before seated. If you're seated, you'll be doing the same thing. See if you can keep the body relatively still as you lift the foot up. And if balance is an issue, please use your chair. So you've still got your chair like this. You can always hold your chair like this. And I'm moving slowly enough where my core is not moving. And if I start to move, I lose my balance. My foot comes down, and that happens. And then straighten both legs, and we're going to do tree pose next. So standing nice and tall in mountain pose. And I'm going to move this off to the side. So with tree pose, remember, have something for balance if you need it. And then if you're in a chair, actually we'll do standing first. And if you're in a chair, you'll walk your foot out to the side and put it on the leg of the chair. So we'll inhale and we'll pat one leg. So this is the straight leg. This is the strong leg. It presses into the floor. And as we press that foot into the floor, we're able to take the weight off the other one. And just pause for a moment as you turn the leg out and rest the ball of the foot on the floor. So most of my weight is on this straight leg. Just a little bit here. You could even tap with your toes like this. So this helps with balance, to have the other foot down. If you feel balanced, the next step is to bring the foot to the inside of the leg, or you could even rest the foot on the top of the other foot. And keeping a nice lengthened spine. Keep a nice lengthened spine. If you want to add the arms, you can. Find a drishti point, something that won't move. And you can stay here for as many breaths as you want. You can spend the rest of the class here. There's some yogis that actually practice where they hold a position. Not usually tree pose, but they will hold a position. Some actually hold it for so long that the muscles stay in that position. It's a little bit weird, actually, but it requires so much concentration. And let's stand up nice and tall. And so now the other leg is straight. The other leg is pressing. The weight's going into that foot, into that leg, and then I'm going to lift and turn that opposite leg out. So I'm on the ball of my foot, and then if that feels okay, the next step is sole the foot on the inside of the calf. Or you could bring it up and put it on the inside of the thigh. Just don't put it on the knee like this. Don't want it on the knee. And then if balance is good, you can extend the arms. You could even extend one arm. So you could have one arm on the chair and the other arm in the air. Remembering to breathe. And if you need to touch down, regain your balance, regain your focus. Find that drishti point. Find that drishti point. And you can come down at any time. And then we'll come down, lower the arms down, and we're going to swing the arms now. Our coat sleeve practice. So the feet are apart for this one, a little more than hip width. So we want to feel support, we want to feel stable here. And usually a little wider makes us feel more stable. And then we're going to shift the weight so that the heel lifts up on one side. And if you're seated, if you're doing this seated, if you're standing, good, keep standing. If you're doing it seated, you can still lift the heel up like this. So we're getting nice turning here. We're getting nice turning. And really letting the shoulders relax. So we're letting the shoulders feel like they are soft and easy and free. And let's come back up and do some cactus breaths here. Inhale, and then exhale, hug. And exhale, hug. Do a few more. And notice if it's any easier to do this than it was at the beginning. It's always nice in a yoga class to be able to feel the changes, the benefits that we get. And hopefully this just feels nicer. Even if you don't hug yourself more, that it feels freer and easier. And then one last time. And then lower the arms down. And let's do a lateral extension here. So you can do this seated or standing. We'll stand up nice and tall and bring the hands like this. And we're going to reach up and down and up and down. So as I reach up, my weight is shifting over onto the side that I'm reaching up on, and my other foot, the heel's lifting up slightly. So I'm going to go back and forth like that. I'm going to go back and forth. So I'm feeling that weight shifting a little bit like when we did the twisting. It's that same idea, but now I'm going up and I'm getting length in the side of the body. I'm getting an opening in the ribs, an opening in the side waist. And then I'm going to bring the hands up. And depending on how your shoulders feel, you can work with the hands like this. You could work with the arms all the way up. And I'm going to begin to bend a little sideways like this. So if you're at all, if it doesn't feel maybe the best thing, try hands on the shoulders first and working like this. But if your arms feel okay extended, it's okay to bend. So there's more bending, or I should say there's more, it takes more muscular effort with the arms extended because you have the weight of the arms are pulling the torso more, right? It's almost like a lever. So starting like this is still okay. So we're getting nice bending like this. And if that feels okay, you could start to extend one arm and then the other. So kind of step by step. And then that leads to eventually doing this. Maybe not this class, but you definitely feel a little more opening with the arms extended. Also more strain. So we don't want to strain ourselves. So working like this is a great way to start. And then we're going to bring the arms down. Take a couple of breaths. So let's see, so we did balance pose, we did triangle pose. Let's sit back down. Let's sit up nice and tall. So find your seated mountain pose, seated mountain pose. And let's add a little bit of movement. So we'll inhale up Exhale down. Inhale up. Exhale down. Exhale down. See if this feels any different than when we started. Perhaps the neck moves up and down more freely with more ease. And then let's go the other way. So the hands come together and we'll drop the hands and then come up. And if you want, you could try shutting the eyes here. Just relying on your proprioception. So proprioception is our ability to feel things in space. Very important for things like when it's dark. If we want to actually get up when it's dark, it can be very challenging if our proprioception isn't so great, because we can't see with our eyes and it affects our balance. So we have to be very careful in the dark, barring good proprioception. And let's sit up nice and tall. And we're going to go ahead and do our Shavasana. So we're going to find a nice comfortable way to sit. And some sort of cushioning behind can be really nice. It's always a little bit of an experiment to find what feels right today for me. And the easiest thing to do is if you find something that works for you, try it for a while. And then you can always try changing it up a little bit too. Sometimes a little change is nice too. So in Shavasana, I like to walk the feet a little bit, very slightly forward of the ankles, very slightly forward of the knees, or directly underneath the knees, your choice. So you'd experiment and you'd see which one feels better. And then leaning back so that I feel supported. I feel supported, a little less effort required to keep the spine lifted, and resting the hands somewhere on the in the lap, on the legs, on the arms of the chair, doesn't matter. Keeping the shoulders relaxed, softening the eyes. If you have glasses on, it can be nice to take them off. Helps the face to relax. And then letting the eyes soften and relax. And then breathing naturally, normally, without extra effort, just like a nice normal breath. And as we're breathing, allowing the breath to slow down. Allowing the breath to slow down. Softening the face and the eyes. Relaxing the jaw and the tongue and the throat. Releasing the shoulders. Softening the arms and the hands and the fingers. Releasing the buttocks, the legs, the knees, the ankles. Softening the feet and toes. Just breathing normally. You're always welcome to stay longer in Shavasana. It's nice to do. If you're relaxed, you want to stay for a few minutes, feel free. And namaste. Thank you all very much.